Легкий способ бросить курить. Не давай табачным компаниям набивать себе карманы. Бросай курить, бросай. Жми на ссылку в описании.
Just on my couch. It's not about my good looks. I'm going to talk about ideas and new things which are happening in Microsoft, Apple, Google, and so on. So, firstly, I will say a few words about our corporation, which is a very novel startup, not of a traditional business model like many. We are not yet making any profit. It's only in the future. So it's called TEdQz. I'm Timoshenko Edward, that's why, and Kuz is inside my friend. So like we're two founding fathers of it. I'm an ex-professor who left university a while ago, still associated with them, but yeah, well, it's all in my bio. You can read, so I'm not going to advertise my company by any means. It's not yet about making profits, but in the future will be. It's about ideas, and we have a very serious network of ex-scientists and technologists and programmers throughout the world who are interested in what we're doing, and we're basically exchanging ideas. So it's more like a blog, if you like, a forum of kind. And so what is interesting is that what is happening, for example, with Microsoft. I was watching, well, recent Apple presentation and a recent build for Microsoft, their conference. So Apple released 9.3, then immediately there was an update, 9.31 iOS, and then there was finally Mac OS El Capitan update, not a beta version. So we had that, and that was cool in a way, and yeah, the bugs fixed and so on. There are always bugs, so I'm not going to talk about details and bugs. But for example, what would surprise you is that Microsoft, after ages of command.com, command.com as they call it always, which is a shell of DOS, and it remained in Windows forever, whatever it was called. But we always laughed. It's actually changing to Bash, which is the standard Linux shell, which is, for example, in Microsoft or in Apple as well. I mean, look, it's a joke. I mean, in the sense that Microsoft abandoned the command.com. Command.com. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? So they're going Linux-like, yeah, and they're all talking about Cortana, which is their Sirius, you know, the voice interface of Apple, which you're all used to by now. I'm not associated with any of those companies directly. I may be a developer for them, like, in a sense. I don't really develop stuff, like I just create ideas. I'm not too old and too tired to actually write codes. Well, I do occasionally, but just when I have to. But create ideas, and so we're going into that direction. But there are people who do, and they're good at it. So interestingly, Microsoft is talking all about bots, and it's all in the same direction about self-driving cars, which we've seen for a while now. And these are becoming commonplace. Yeah, Google is a car maker. Apple is going to that. Of course, they are associated with traditional car makers, whatever. I'm not going to discuss any trademarks, seriously. But what is interesting, we've seen the evolution of drones. You see, I predicted most of these trends years ago. Thanks to my background, more or less, maybe pretty broad, but is in technology area somehow. So I was saying to some people 20 years ago who didn't believe me that we'll see that car will self-drive, planes will self-fly, we'll have artificial intelligence, we call it AI, artificial intelligence, yeah, briefly. So we'll see all of that in our lifetimes. Those who would be lucky enough to still live, I mean, you know, there are accidents and stuff. And it of course all came true, and that is happening right now. So we're in an interesting era of evolution of technologies. So we're coming from the old MS-DOS type, or believe me, I've seen the operating system prior to MS-DOS, and then of course Windows 3.1 was so revolutionary. IBM had another system which few of you probably remember, and there are many other things which were throughout years. Not that old, I'm about 47 soon. Yeah, well, and what is curious is that now it's all kind of becoming the same. It's a convergence which again we sort of foreseen in our research, and trends which of certain convergence. So you would use mobile devices. We're talking now about wearables a lot. So you have glasses or watches which are as smart as the era of mobile phones. Again, we've foreseen before they actually became commonplace. There was a time when people never heard of web pages or emails, but I already had them. Once I was lucky enough to actually meet Steve Jobs, for example. I've met a lot of smart people in my life. I was lucky enough, but we've exchanged emails. But yeah, I've met him at Palo Alto. He was there for some conference. And just by chance, we talked for a while, and he dismissed whatever other things he was doing, and we chatted. Had his usual drink of no alcohol, and I had my usual alcohol drink with him, and coffee and stuff. And he had a kind of habit of saying whether you're an idiot or you're a genius. And he never was as categoric as people say. Well, you ask Tim Cook, he knew him much more than I was his mate throughout life. And he left Apple in his hands. And of course he knew that Tim is gay. I mean, no doubt. Steve never was. So that's not a question. We're not discussing that issue. But I mean, I'm just saying that Tim knows Steve, who he was, really well. But so Steve, after listening to we were basically talking about the future of Apple, and he had a little bit of foreboding of his illness, and I think he knew already, but we didn't go into that. We had a kind of quick chat which lasted probably for an hour or two. I don't know. I didn't notice the time. Just talking, and I was talking, he was talking. So we talked about, yes, sort of Siri, and it's called Cortana in Microsoft, and we talked about self-driving cars and drones and tablets and the future of iPhones, iPods, and stuff like that. And it wasn't that specifically framed in those terms. We just discussed trends, and then glasses and various iPhone type devices, watches, Apple Watch and whatever, and future of search engines. And it was it was 2005, so Steve was pretty sick then. When I visited United States, California, from San Diego up to San Francisco broadly, along the coast, different universities, giving series of lectures and stuff, and visiting. And so we foresaw those trends more or less. And what is interesting, there are different companies, whether it's Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, which is in trouble at the moment. They all seen various trends, and we discussed China. I'm Christian too, so that's okay. We're not here discussing at the moment religion, but we are into technology discussion. So the future of technological evolution of IT and artificial intelligence, that's what I'm talking at this moment. But I discussed obviously another my forecast. You could see them on catch.me @_132 and same on Twitter. And there is a Facebook page. So there will be a Facebook page on our corporation, which at the moment is just a startup, which is not producing any money, not even registered properly. And there isn't even a website which is working that well. So it's more like you're collecting ideas at the moment. As I said, I retired from university professorship and kind of doing my own entrepreneurial technology-based ideas. So they're very broad. They involve things from medicine, and since I have a very good background in that and experience in teaching, so again it's data processing, more or less. It's all to do with data processing. Our brains, we will find neurosurgery, we will find cardiology, oncology, all kind of those subjects there in terms of medicine. You will find weather prediction, climate, prediction of trajectories of satellites. So it's pretty broad because it's all data. As our brains, they process data essentially. Same. So artificial intelligence is becoming enhancer of our natural capabilities. We're all using calculators long since I was a baby, you know, and then computers came along, and then smartphones, and now you have wearable devices such as watches, glasses, things you put into your ear, kind of headphones, and the future probably is in implants. So you kind of like you microchip dogs or cats, like. So you'll have something like that, very tiny, and it won't need batteries, won't cause any problem, but it will communicate with your brain. That is sort of the future, probably. If you don't like it, don't install it. I mean, but it won't cause you any harm, but it will enhance your capabilities and make you sort of superhuman in a way, because you will be faster using rather than typing on an iPhone or whatever you're using, Android device. So as much as you like or hate it, I mean, there are different views about that. That is what is about happening. Miniaturization, but absolutely you can't rule out huge data centers and enormous servers which still exist. So probably it sounds a bit futuristic and abstract, and I'm still a little bit after a long night brainstorm on certain issues. So, but I want to throw a few ideas around, and people who are interested, just follow me and Twitter, Facebook, and here on Periscope. And so it's interesting, and I probably will do a better version of that. So I'll wrap that one up because it's a little bit too broad, I guess, and focused. But it is focused, so it's all about data processing and how it's processed. And so the other part I will do will be about quantum computing. I will just restart this in a moment after having a cup of tea, and so it will be just a few minutes from now, and I will talk about quantum computing, which is inevitably coming, and we already have it in some way, and the evolution of drones and self-driving cars, and why Microsoft really decided to go Linux way. But you see, FreeBSD, what is behind Mac OS operating system on iOS, is actually FreeBSD. So the Linux are not necessarily FreeBSD, is a different thing, but very similar. They use Bash as a common shell which is behind, and as a Unix base. So before Linux even emerged, I've already used Unix, and we used assembly language, which was very low level, you know, programming languages for devices. And but with the emergence of better computer technologies and general technologies, we are evolving towards the smarter communication and smarter programming languages. And then we're coming to the age of self-educating, self-healing machines, robots, whatever you call them, bots, which is now a trend. Because we simplify words, we say internet, we don't say internet. So the other one will be more about artificial intelligence and drones and self-driving cars and planes. And so we'll talk about that just in a moment after a cup of tea. Thank you for listening. However, very few people who listen at this stage, but that's okay. It's available on replay, and probably will get popularity as I will specify more in more detail what I'm talking about. Wrapping this up for the moment.